Greetings and welcome to the International Paediatric Simulation Society podcast. This show is for people passionate about pediatric simulation-based education, training, and research. Podcast hosts are members of IPSS, a global community of multidisciplinary healthcare professionals from over 30 countries, all dedicated to improving the care of infants and children worldwide. Each week, one of our sub-hosts, Christine Bailey, Elaine Ng, Erin Carn-Bennett, and myself, Samreen Vora, will introduce you to a new guest and bring you into a conversation with simulationists and healthcare professionals from across the world. Come along.
Mark your calendars. Get prepared and ready. Our annual conference, IPSSW 2026, is taking place from the 4th till the 7th of May at Hotel Villa, Pamphili, Roma, minutes from Vatican City in Rome. The 2026 theme of IPSSW is celebrating the past, embracing the present, and anticipating the future. How exciting. I can't wait, and I hope you will all come along as well. Submit your abstract by Wednesday, the 29th of October, 5 Eastern Time. Get ready for IPSSV happening November 6th or 7th, 2025, depending on where you live, live, and it is virtual, so you can join from anywhere in the world, and you have access to it on demand after the event. This year's theme is High Impact Simulation on a Budget, Practical and Innovative Solutions. Hear from world-class speakers including Victoria Brazil, Kelly Bryant, and Adil Kahati as they share tools, success stories, and fresh approaches to improving care. Register now at ipss.org. Welcome to IPSS, the podcast. I'm Erin Carn-Bennett, and I'm your host of this episode today. We're joined by Jane Cichero, a Simulation Nurse Educator at Sydney Children's Hospital in Australia. Jane has been shaping paediatric nursing education at Sydney Children's Hospital Network, Randwick, since 1995. She brings more than 30 years of clinical experience from general paediatrics, pediatric intensive care, and 16 years of time spent in emergency nursing. Jane is the lead nurse for the critical care simulation team based in the emergency department, supporting simulation services across Sydney Children's Hospital Network. Jane has a strong passion for harnessing simulation, not just to teach clinical and teamwork skills, but also as a powerful tool to improve quality and patient safety. Jane has been an advanced pediatric life support instructor since 2004. In 2020, she joined the APLS support team. In this role, she focuses on developing faculty skills and behaviours, striking the balance between consistent curriculum delivery and learner-centred teaching. She also plays a key part in updating courses and programs, getting them aligned with contemporary approaches to medical education. Qualifications include a paediatric certificate, pediatric critical care certificate, graduate diploma in clinical teaching, Harvard Medical Simulation certificate, and an APLS instructor. Welcome, Jane. I am so pleased to be interviewing you today.
Thank you, Erin. It's very nice to be here, my first podcast. Thank you very much for inviting me, and thanks for that intro.
I'm really so stoked to be doing this interview because we've worked together a few times now, and we've got to get to know each other fairly well over the last 6 years, and it's really exciting to be interviewing someone who's been in the simulation and education scene for as long as you have. And I'm really excited to hear more about the history of Jane and Sydney and the Trans-Tasman collab and how IPSS has fitted into that whole story as well. Jane, can you tell us, how did you get into sim? Tell us a bit more about your sim story.
I think, Erin, when I reflect on my journey in sim, I think my APLS journey was the first thing that got me into sim. Doing APLS as a candidate in 2003, I was an ICU nurse then, opened my eyes to that scenario-based learning and the value of repeating it, I suppose, and how that just really struck me as such a great educational tool. APLS was my first introduction, and I was invited to be an instructor, and we have to do a generic instructor course to learn the skills of how you facilitate scenarios and debrief on an APLS course. So that was my first introduction in the early 2000s. When I moved from ICU to ED, our medical director was an avid APLS instructor and a big believer in simulation. He saw that simulation was going to be the next thing. With the support of him, as nurse educators in the ED, it was really when SIM was beginning in Sydney, and we went over to Royal North Shore, and Leonie Watterson, who's a very big lead here in New South Wales for simulation, and they ended up building an amazing SIM centre, but we literally did SIM in the basement of some really old building and started to discover the ability for SIM to be a really powerful learning tool. So from being exposed to other scenarios where other people were running here, there was Ella Scott is another person who was already running SIM. So I started to learn that this was something I wanted to embrace. I thought it was great. That was really the beginning of my intro into SIM, and then from there I decided to learn the skills. So off I went, toddled off to do the Harvard SIM course out here in Australia and start building my skills in my nurse educator role in ED. So that's probably the beginning of the journey, built into the normal everyday work that we had to do as a nurse educator. Later on, getting separate funding that enabled me to have some dedicated time as a SIM educator, another dedicated time as a nurse educator and ED. Having that dedicated time allowed me to really get absorbed in the space and really start to learn more about how to do it properly.
And what do you enjoy the most about simulation? What's the thing that really is your North Star or your why? What do you love the most about it?
There's not one key thing that I love about it, I suppose, is what I would say. I have always loved being an educator and the aha moments that you see people have in the SIM itself or the debrief afterwards. The aha moments are the thing that has always made me excited to be an educator. And SIM is one part of that. Watching people grow and develop as clinicians to be able to give, better care for their own self-worth and their own confidence, as well as delivering better care. They are the things that I really enjoy about it. The thing I love seeing about SIM, particularly the SIM that we're doing for ED team training, is the changes back on the floor, the changes that people incorporate and take on board and go, oh my God, that's what we learnt last week, and let's make sure we try and do that. And you see those changes back in the resus room or back in just everyday conversation. That's another thing that really drives me and what I love about it. Now is at my level, the running faculty development training for people and supporting people in developing their own skills. Now my focus is gone a little bit more to seeing people develop as educators in simulation and scenario-based learning. I feel like we're just spreading these great skills in all our clinicians and allied health and those people to be able to improve even more, so that is lovely to see people develop as simulation educators. So we're spreading the love, so to speak, everywhere. There's one last thing I would think about. That's with translational SIM, because we're doing a lot of translational SIM now with a new hospital that we're moving to. So we're developing skills in people to see how the value of translational simulation can contribute to the safety of the organisation and the systems and processes. There's lots of different levels that I just love about it. And all this means that you change culture. And that to me is the biggest thing that has driven me in my ED here, is that because SIM has been so embraced and led from the top and from below, we've changed culture, I think, and we have this really great culture in our emergency department, and I believe it came from simulation. So it was powerful in lots of ways. So there's lots of reasons why I enjoy it.
When I came over to teach on the faculty development workshop in Sydney in June, alongside you, Jane, I could really see the support that you give everyone, that real mentorship approach with everyone, participants, faculty. It's awesome to see and important to pass on and to really support those that are coming on behind us as well. And I really noticed that mentorship from you while over supporting that course. It was so much fun. So where does IPSS fit into this story? Tell us about how you first joined and what's been your IPSS Sims.
I first went to IPSS in New York. I have to say, I can't remember how long ago that was. I'd have to go and look it up.
It certainly predates my time, but I definitely remember seeing the photos on Facebook from the team thinking, wow, that looks really cool.
There was a bit of a crew of us that went. I think to go to New York too. And having a conference as an excuse was a good thing. But we had an abstract we were presenting, and that was with the North Shore Sim Centre that I had been doing some work with. That was my first conference, and then I have been to pretty much almost every year, and except for the last few years. But my co-lead, Nicola Concannon, who's the ED consultant here and medical co-lead with simulation, we do laugh and say that we've probably travelled together more than what we do with our husbands nowadays, because we consistently commit to going to our either IPSS, and of late we've been going to CSAM as well. I think IPSS was great. I don't remember the New Zealand gang quite so much at New York, but I remember Boston being the beginning of a beautiful relationship with our New Zealand colleagues, and many margaritas and lots of excitement in sharing what were the things we were both doing and what we were both struggling with, and what visions did we have for our services. And I think that for us at IPSS, we had the time to really be absorbed in and think about that, particularly over a few margaritas, and think how could we, because we're down at the bottom of the world, come together and support each other for that. I would say IPSS, I mean, I joined fairly quickly after I'd been to the first conference, and just knew that this was a little lovely community of paediatric clinicians who really felt we are a little bit different to the bigger adult group in ways. So coming together as a smaller community of practice was really nice at IPSS. I really liked that, and they were fairly intimate conferences, which I really liked, and enabled nice small workshops. And we knew what each other's issues were. Networking to me was a really big part of doing IPSS in the paediatric simulation world. That's what I really got out of it. And also, of course, meeting some of our gurus overseas, Peter Weinstock and Tracy Wallerbrink, who have been incredible supporters for our programs that we've done. I think IPSS enabled us to be able to really network and find support within different people within that community and grow our service, which I think we've done really well. I could tell you a whole lot more about what we've done, which is amazing, but that's what IPSS has done for me and us as a team.
Absolutely. And I think that collaboration that occurred at IPSS, I think of all of we have monthly catch up on Teams with our Trans-Tasman teams. We send faculty to one another's courses and share resources and update courses together and do research together, and it's amazing. So it's really cool to reflect back on that. IPSS was one of the start points for that, and the impact that has had really has been phenomenal.
For me too is also the developing countries like Sri Lanka, through New Zealand collaboration and being given that opportunity to support other countries who are trying to develop their faculty, I think again, that was through IPSS. So we're really lucky to do that. And I'm really grateful for that opportunity too.
And that was, a couple of weeks ago you were over there.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more about Sri Lanka?
Yes. I've been going to Sri Lanka for quite a few years with APLS because they are building their APLS faculty over there. And so I go over as an educator to run an instructor course there with some key Australian faculty, but we're really building up the Sri Lankan faculty over there. Your Mike Shepherd, your original sim lead, wasn't he? Was moved on to higher pastures. But an advocate, such a believer in sim and a great leader as it came to. We're at an APLS conference. He said, we're thinking of going to Sri Lanka to start sim faculty development over there. We should align it with APLS, and perhaps if you're already going, then you could stay on and we could run a course. And I went, yeah, sure, that would be fantastic. I'd love that. So we did our first course last year, and there was a couple of us, someone from India, and then Mike and Damia from New Zealand and myself from Australia, and supporting the local people. And a lot of them are APLS instructors, but it's sort of giving up a level for this sim faculty development. So we did it last year. It was fantastic. They've continued to do sim. We did a bit of a refresher this last couple of weeks ago for them, 4 hours in the afternoon, just on debriefing, and that was fantastic, and they really loved that, but also have just come so far, which was great to see. The most exciting thing, Erin, and you'll love this, is that the course we did a couple of weeks ago had 23 nurses on it and about 6 doctors, and so I feel for the nursing fraternity of the world to see in a culture that doesn't necessarily see the nurses as prevalent in these courses, and that generally it's the doctors, to see 23 nurses come on board and learn some skills for simulation was to me so exciting, and I think really support what they're trying to building simulation faculty in Sri Lanka. So that was really exciting. Lots of learning. Mike and I did a lot of pivoting and had to be very flexible with how we adapted to their needs. But it's good. It keeps us on our toes too. Got to not be too rigid when you're going into different countries and think about how to meet their needs. That was fun.
Yeah, fascinating. Sounds like it really was quite a learning experience for everyone.
I think it was. Really.
Great. Yeah. Is this sort of just a throw out random question? Is there anything else that you've noticed like over the years in simulation? How have you noticed that things have changed? Obviously, we've had the introduction of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and a lot of growth in that area, and growth in psychological safety. But is there anything that really stands out for you when you compare to when you first started in simulation to now? Is there anything that's strikingly different that you can think of?
I definitely think how we structure courses, curriculum, and that's sort of the educator hat in me, has really changed because we have a few more definitions out there of how we can structure curriculum. What's changed is there's research and theory and more evidence behind it. What we were chatting about before, where you've got some theory behind how you develop things.
Yeah.
We're doing it in a far more measured way and planning around that, rather than just what I used to do is write a scenario, roll up, ring the bell, and everyone turned up. Do you know what I mean? So while you're saying psych safety and all those things, absolutely, we have really changed that. But I think also we're thinking much more carefully about the learner-centered care, and not thinking we just throw a sim in because that's the best thing. We actually, to me, it's much more learner-centered focus now. So who is the learner? What do they need? And how do we design our curriculum around that? So I would think that's the biggest change I would think that I've seen. And then I would add to that, for me, and this is the level I'm at, is that simulation is not just about education. To me, simulation, and this is what I think we haven't succeeded at in most places, even many organisations do not see, that simulation is not just about education. Simulation is about patient safety across the board. And there are different things that simulation skills can provide to improve safety and quality, and translational sim and testing and orientation to new departments, all those things, testing out new guidelines, checklists are all about systems and processes rather than education. So I think that's changed, but not enough.
It's testing the system that the humans have to use.
Yes, yes.
To see how the system is letting us down and how we can improve things.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Some of the things that you pick up are just really quite phenomenal. We are collating data for every simulation that we're running now, and we're capturing every little thing that we're finding to really try and hone that data. It's really fascinating.
Do you mean smaller things that are not just your typical latent threats? Do you mean other things?
So I designed a monthly report called a Simpact report that I really did not know what I was doing. And it was an interesting thing to just dive in and to try and create this infographic and turn it into something useful of what we were doing every month. And we've had an amazing new administrator join our team, Sonia. And she comes from a marketing background. I said, I really don't know what I'm doing with this. And do you have any skills in this? And she's non-healthcare background and has it all linked up to Google Sheets and collates a whole lot of data points from every sim that we deliver, and that includes latent safety threats. It's work in progress, but from what she shared with us so far, like, oh my gosh, I was trying to figure this out for 2 years and you've come along and it looks so much better. It's really going to grow and adapt and change and expand while we're using AI and all these other things too. But I think it was just a great example of how we're educators and we're nurses. I mean, some people might be data specialists, but I certainly wasn't. You have people from the outside come in and they can do these wonderful things because it was all these sort of questions of, but what's the impact? We want to measure the impact. And so having someone with this really specialized background has been amazing for us. Really opened our eyes. Yeah.
Perhaps we can borrow her sometime.
Oh, yes. She is phenomenal. We are loving her. Certainly have a meeting with her and I'm sure she will share things with you. We've covered a lot of ground here, haven't we? Anything else you wanted to put a spotlight on with the Trans-Tasman collaboration at all?
I think just as far as the Trans-Tasman collaboration goes, for me, you've touched on what we do. I think we have supported each other in developing our skills too. And I suppose if I reflect back on my own journey, I felt so not confident when you could come across and we'd just try and get you to lead the stuff. And I suppose it goes back to what you were saying, Erin, before of what I might be trying to do now. But you were able to so safely support us and guide us and coach us to the point that then we were able to feel confident enough that, no, we've got this, we can do this too. So I just wanted to comment on that and say how grateful we are for that collaboration and that support that's come from all of your team, from Joe and from Mike and from Gabriel and Trish, and then you guys as well, in the different ways that you've been able to do that. And the research, that suspense project that we did is my first ever research that I had to do. I got a grant for it here. Now, so being invited to be part of that, to be a multi-centre, was so exciting, and it was a huge learning curve again for me. That collaboration was very useful for us as such a new sim team. So we've really been able to build our own confidence, our own capacity through the support from you and, of course, Peter and Tracy from Boston too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're always so incredibly grateful when the Sydney team comes to help us out on our courses as well. We've got Patrice, your fellow, coming over in October to help us on our 3-day faculty development workshop, which is awesome. And I was lucky enough to meet her in June. So that's really exciting. I think that whole mentorship piece, it's really hard to get right, eh? I think it's really important we keep trying, though, to grow each other within our own teams and even trans-Tasmanly, internationally. And the feedback piece it's a whole thing. To try and deliver feedback well is actually a really challenging skill. And it's so often so impactful and so helpful when you work in simulation. I think that is a skill that you definitely really excel at from what I've seen, Jane. Now, There's been this new SimPack collaborative we should probably give a shout out to. That actually, I believe there's a meeting in 45 minutes that we're supposed to be on, Jane.
Right, I'm presenting too. I'm presenting ACE from you guys. Another collaboration. There you go.
Do you want to tell us a bit about it? Because to be honest, I haven't dived in the rabbit hole, but I need to jump on this meeting. So tell me. Tell us.
Look, definitely. Well, look, the beginnings, interestingly, when we were in Lisbon at the IPSS conference in Lisbon, Ellen, who was one of the SIM medical leads at Western Australia at the Perth Children's Hospital SIM Centre, we were just chatting and she was just saying how alone she feels over on the west coast of Australia. It's so far away and they're doing things in isolation. And wouldn't it be great to get a community of practice together in Australia, New Zealand sort of thing. So it really came from IPSS again. I was just give us another plug. So then last year, Weinstock came to support us in an advanced debriefing course. And Nicola and I thought, let's try and see if we can get some statewide paediatric sim leads together to meet with Peter and talk about what a community of practice could look like in Australia and New Zealand. You weren't left out, but we already had you. We knew who you were. And so Nicola and I certainly did a fair bit of work then, and we had an initial meeting at the beginning of 2012. I just let the ball drop. I didn't get a whole lot of traction. It was exciting for people to come together, but I didn't get a whole lot of traction. And our priorities come up and then you see things going up. But you know what? I think I just have to leave this go for a minute. Tom from Perth has taken up the baton, which was great. The reason that happened was because he's also an APLS instructor and we had been communicating from an APLS point of view. And then he said about he thinking about getting a SIM co-op together. So I gave him all the details and all the pre-work and he's really taken the ball and run with it. So that is great. So he's got a great group, lots of people from all the different states of Australia and from New Zealand. We've met, I would say, 2 or 3 times now with the format of around the room, who are you, where you're from, highlight, and then someone presents a topic. They're also doing research, and so they're leading some research about trying to find what SIM research priorities might be out there in paediatrics. So he's certainly got a good motivator to keep it going for the research point of view, really pulling it together. Also, he approached CHAR, which is the Children's Hospitals Australasia, as an organisation to see if they could support us from an IT perspective and resources, really just about coming together and sharing ideas. It's new, it's very new, and we'll see how it goes, but they've got a schedule with people presenting different highlights from conferences. So it should be good.
The schedule looks great. And if we've got Australian or New Zealand listeners who are interested, we will add Tom. He's got a special collaborative email. We'll find out how they can get connected up and put that in the show notes. It's very good from what I've seen so far, and I'm sure your talk will be great today. After I was co-chair of IPSSV, our virtual conference in November last year, I was asked who should be an option for co-chair for 2025. Of course, Jane was one of the first people that I thought of. So I'm really excited that you're co-chair for IPSSV this year, Jane, in November.
Thank you, Erin, for giving me the opportunity. It's actually been lovely. It is really nice when you jump online with a very small committee. Tom from Western Australia is on it now too. So we've got all these different time zones and it is quite a nice thing to come together. So the promo is, the date is November 6th. Now that's US time, 5 p.m. till 7 p.m, which is morning time for us on the 6th of November. We tried to choose a time that was going to be reasonable for both northern and southern hemispheres, which is exciting. The theme of the session is high impact simulation on a budget, practical and innovative solutions. And it'll go for 2 hours. We've got 4 key presenters that we're going to have do 10 minutes for each of their topics that they're doing. Then we'll have a 20 minutes Q&A as a big group. And then what we're hoping to do is have 2 lots of 20 minutes breakout rooms where people will choose a different room to go to so they can have a smaller group with that particular presenter, depending on what they're interested in. We've got some good stuff, a bit of AI, a bit of what we call VEMS, I think a bit of MS. I think there might be a bit for everybody. So it should be really exciting.
We will be sure to add all those details into the show notes as well. So if you're keen to come and join IPSS, then you can register and sign up as well. I really enjoyed being a co-chair on IPSSV last year, and it was a really great conference. And it's great as a co-chair, you get to learn as well. So it was a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I guess we better wrap this up. Thank you so much, Jane, for coming and being a guest on IPSS, the podcast. And it's been really interesting to hear some more about your simulation story and the 30 or more years it's been that you've been working in the industry, which is phenomenal.
Thank you so much,
Jane.
Erin, for inviting me. It sounds like it's time for me to retire when we say that number of years.
Hopefully not anytime soon, Jane.
No, there's always more learning. That's what I say.
Are you ready to take your simulation skills to the next level? Join IPSS Academy, Simulation Design and Practice, a one-day virtual workshop on October 28th, 2025. From 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time, you'll dive into fundamentals of simulation-based education, running and debriefing cases, sharpening your techniques, and learning from international experts. Registration is $400 for IPSS members, $550 for non-members, and $25 for low, middle income country members. If you register 5 or more from your team, you'll get 10% off. Don't miss it. IPSS Academy, Simulation Design and Practice, October 28th. Learn more at ipss.org.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the IPSS podcast. A special thanks to our behind-the-scenes producer, the talented Danish Kumar, and to the Starship Foundation for providing the equipment that makes this podcast possible. Join us next time.